Hello and welcome to the South Carolina Business Review. This is Mike Switzer. As the head of our state's flagship business school, our next guest is staying particularly busy during the global pandemic, helping to facilitate not only new avenues for student learning, but to address the sudden change in the needs of the business community. Part of that effort includes a series of weekly interviews on this radio show with his faculty, followed by a series of live Zoom conferences. Peter Brews is Dean of the Darla Moore School of Business at the University of South Carolina in Columbia. And our series, of which this is the first installment, is entitled Managerial Insights, Supporting Businesses During an Uncertain Time. Pete, welcome back to the program.
Mike, it's an honor and delight to be back with you again, but unfortunately not under circumstances I would have chosen.
No, absolutely not. And so tell us how the Moore School of Business has been dealing with this crisis.
Well, I've been incredibly proud about how well the Moore School team and our students have responded to this crisis. We first formed an emergency management team, and I spent the first 3 weeks meeting early each morning with that team and talking for a number of hours. We're now starting to think about what's going to happen in the summer and what's going to happen in the fall, and what the likely more enduring effects of this event is going to be. In the last couple of weeks, I've sent out communications, and in the first communication, I basically relied on something that Kennedy said about may we live in interesting times. And in these times of interest, the way that he used it, it's when creativity and human energy is most optimal and required. And I basically ended my first communication to our faculty, staff, and students by saying, unleash your creativity and show grace, because obviously we're going to all have to be creative in these new times. Secondly, while we were going through this, mistakes were going to be made, things weren't known. I urged everybody to show grace.
And now as a leader of a business school, I know you're having communications with business leaders around the state. Share with us how those conversations have been going during this crisis.
Some businesses are flourishing, some businesses are really struggling, and some are in the middle somewhere. And it's been really interesting for me to hear that. It's pretty clear that healthcare is going through the most amazing experience through this, and there are some of our healthcare providers that are really at the heart of this crisis. And may I say that they are going to be the veterans of this war, and we should be very thankful for their service. I've had some questions from leaders about, how do you manage crises? But in general, I'm getting a sense that everybody realizes that we are going to get through this together, and as long as we show our best selves, we will make it.
And this interview with you today is the first installment on our partnership together with the Moore School and the South Carolina Business Review radio show. We will follow this interview up on Monday at 3 o'clock with an online live Zoom conference with you, and then we will have the same schedule going forward with some of your faculty. Give us the highlights of what our listeners can expect.
I'm hoping that they tune in and come to the Zoom conferences and they arrive with questions and be, ready to engage. I'm going to be talking more about the long-term strategic effects of this event and indeed answer questions about leadership and how you should react under these circumstances. We're also going to have faculty who are world-class experts in their fields talk about how you optimize teamwork in the virtual remote setting, or how you monitor remote employee performance in a virtual or remote setting. And we're even going to have one of our supply chain experts talk about making our supply chains more resilient and why cost minimization is not the only concern of importance at this time. You'll also have some sense of how to sell in the remote and the virtual environment, and indeed, material on best practices in financial management and how government stimuli may help. And of course, as a school, what we really are trying to do is to help the business people of South Carolina be able to get through this event, thrive in this event if they can, and if they can't thrive, at the very least, survive.
Well, Pete, thank you so much for spending time with us today. We'll look forward to seeing you at the Zoom conference on Monday.
Thank you so much, and be safe.
You too. Pete Brews is Dean of the Darla Moore School of Business at the University of South Carolina in Columbia, and our series, once again, of which this is the first installment, is entitled Managerial Insights Supporting Businesses During an Uncertain Time. And you will find all of the details at the Moore School webpage. We have the page posted at our website. Our address is southcarolinapublicradio.org, where you can also hear this show again and subscribe to this podcast. With the South Carolina Business Review, this is Mike Switzer.
The views expressed on the South Carolina Business Review do not necessarily reflect those of South Carolina Public